Hi everyone, welcome to Tea and Trails podcast. Thanks Phoenix Light for sponsoring this week's interview. The best design comes from the actual needs of users. Phoenix takes providing mobile lighting products with excellent performance as the goal and bond for harsh environments as its mission. Never forget where you started and your mission can be accomplished. Patrons can enjoy 10% off and all you listeners can get 5% off with the code TNT5. Pop over to www.phoenixlight.co.uk. Every so often, Gary, we jump on the Zoom call. It's a bit rainy, it's a bit dark here, winter's coming, and a beacon of light and hope meets
shining
us.
bright
And
today.
this interview was like sometimes when you meet people and they may, gosh, all the time as Chris was talking, I feel like I need to do more in this life. I need to give more. To meet somebody like you're just about to hear, who has given over his life to service, and not just to rhinos, but to everything else that goes around in that world. Wow, amazing. Some of his words and his actions and his whole being is going to change the way that you think, and you will never look at a rhino in the London Marathon in the same way after this chat.
I think it was a tonic today. You know, with everything that's going on currently, it seemed like such a tonic. I heard something yesterday and it said, hurt people. And Chris, his kind of outlook on life, he's very hopeful. And I think then that inspires hope in others too. Hope you enjoy our chat with Rhino Boy Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
How you doing?
Chris.
Hello. How are you, mate?
Yeah,
Good,
well,
how are
thanks.
you?
Oh, I'm currently randomly in a services. I just sort of parked up in the middle of nowhere because I was running out of time and didn't want to miss you guys.
Oh, brilliant. Appreciate that. We're just talking about Dragon's Back race. Are you, do you ever fancy that? We're kind of keeping our eye on it this week.
Absolutely, of course I do. So it's definitely on the bucket list.
Would you take the suit over Cribcock? that's the big question.
Yeah, I think it might be an audacious one to rhino up for, but you know, never say never. It's always a dangerous one. The amount of events I've entered where people went, "Oh, the rhino definitely couldn't do that,"
And then you're like, hold my beer, I'll show you.
Exactly that. Yeah, go and get my hooves ready for a Dragon's Back. Yeah, why not? Getting the rhino on any sort of platform is what I'm all about, which is why I'm so grateful to you guys for inviting me along today.
You probably don't know, but we talked about you quite a lot. Now, why did Chris Rhino Boy come up? Was it on because he's on our Strava club?
Well, Liz and Tim from Protein Rebel brought it up.
Yeah, but there was a time I think you kept coming on our radar, so it's good that like it was meant to be.
I love that. My rhino ears have been burning me in a wonderful way. So there you go.
Thanks to Liz and Tim from Protein Rebel for connecting us. I think I saw lots of images from the Protein Rebel Festival. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but you were there. Yeah, how was it? It looked awesome on social media.
It was awesome, and I'm so pleased that they've decided to they're going to do it again next year, because it was one of those special days where it was such a wonderful atmosphere from start to finish, wonderful group of people, wonderful community, and it had just such a really feel good spirit, and I think a lot of people came along that were really sort of motivated and inspired by the people. I felt like a bit of a rhino imposter, if I'm honest, because some of the speakers, they were kind enough to invite me as a guest speaker, but some of the guys that I was sharing the hay stage, as it were, with, they were absolutely phenomenal. I got a lot out of it personally, just listening to their stories and then just interacting with everybody there. You could feel that the message that Protein Rebel are trying to put out there, and a love of running and the places and the people that it can take you to and introduce you to are just so far reached and such a special thing. And I think that's what those sort of festivals are all about. Protein Rebel nailed it, and so roll on next year. Awesome day.
Do you ever get nervous? We did the Tea and Trails Ultra this year and actually enjoyed it when I was on stage, but the build up, I was racked with nerves. And you've also got this situation where maybe people don't know who you are because they've seen you in the suit, and then you're on the stage as you are.
I get to fly under the rhino radar, as it were, on so many occasions, because I get to hide inside that costume, and you're right, people don't. I can go up to people at events when I'm in my human form, and they might not recognise me, and it's quite funny when I have to say, well, I'm normally in the rhino suit. No, I've never seen a naked rhino before, so
Brilliant.
I get to fly under that radar. It was funny because I thought I was going up for a Q&A session. So I was kind of relaxed because I know those guys, really well. And then actually they kind of put me a little bit on the spot in my hooves there, standing there, because it was Chris is now going to present to us a little bit about his work for Save the Rhino and all his adventures. So yeah,
wow.
they had a rhino waffling on for 40 odd minutes, but yeah, it was. It seemed that everybody seemed to enjoy it.
Well, I listened to Adam Buxton's podcast this week, and he was speaking to David Byrne, and he said, do you ever get like an interviewer who just rattles off all your achievements, and is that quite an awkward situation? And David Byrne said, yeah, it is a bit awkward. It doesn't happen very often. I'm kind of visualising this is what we do with our AI intro, because it just kind of is a bit of a love bomb.
I've never watched a guest, if you've read it out, not enjoy listening to.
Okay, could be the first. Today's guest doesn't just run marathons, he stampedes through them in a 25 kg rhino costume. He's a Guinness World Record holder, a conservation crusader, and the kind of guy who turns sweat, blisters and endurance into hope for endangered species. Rhino Boy Chris has charged through over 100 races to raise awareness for rhino conservation, and somehow still finds the energy to write children's books, visit schools and inspire a global community of runners and wildlife lovers alike. In this episode, we dive into the wild world of running in costume, the emotional highs and lows of ultra endurance, and the deeper mission behind every mile. Let's get into it with the one and only Rhino Boy Chris.
Wow, it's bringing a tear to my eye. Some of that. That's absolutely lovely.
It's wonderful.
The only thing I'll say for AI is they've made it a little bit harder, because they said 25 kgs, and I can't take that. Although it feels it sometimes. It's a 13 kilo suit, so they're making it sound a little bit harder. But sometimes I have a donation jar on the front of the horn. It's a wonderful problem to have when that is full. It probably is 25.
You need a card reader, Chris. You need a contactless card reader.
I've got my QR code, and we're joining the 24. I'm not such a woolly rhino anymore. No, look, I've literally scratched across finish lines where the head has become so heavy where that car is full. It is a one, like I say, nice problem to have, and any back pain and forearm pain from holding it up, it's all worth it if we're helping save the rhino.
I don't think there's a week goes by in this podcast we don't talk about chafing. Surely 13 kg suit over 26.2 miles.
Do you know what? I'm morphing into a rhino now, so I don't need to. I don't know what's happening. My skin is becoming like a rhino's hide. My feet are definitely like rhino hooves these days. They're
excellent.
They're not the prettiest things, and I'm becoming really short-sighted. I do believe I'm becoming more rhino than human with every event that I participate in.
It's a good Netflix film coming, isn't it? The guy, some sort of like Spider-Man.
Yeah, it is. It's like a super rhino power, and I think I do have a saying, be more rhino. We should all be more rhino, because rhinos are so peaceful. They're really gentle, magnificent species. So if we could all channel a little bit of our inner rhino, then I do believe the world would be a better place.
Are they at all violent like the hippo? Because the hippo gets a bad rep of can be pretty nasty. Would a rhino turn on you, or are they a pretty docile?
Look, there's 5 species of rhino, and they've all got very different characteristics. And yes, if a rhino is cornered, I mean, they're not as aggressive as a hippo, nowhere near. They're, like I say, they are very, very gentle species. But for example, you've got the black rhino, which is one of the critically endangered rhinos that we're really trying to help. Especially if they've got young, they are far more feisty. Let's just say feisty.
Okay, I like that. I like that about kids and rhinos. We like a bit of feist. Yeah.
I think also if you apply it in the running world, a bit of stubbornness, a bit of determination, a bit of feistiness about you, it gets you through many events.
And a bit of rough skin. Save the chaffing. We all need that. We don't want soft skin.
avoid that at all costs. But look, I've discovered parts of myself, both mentally and physically. By being in that costume, you discover a lot about yourself. So the chafing introduces you to new areas you didn't even know you had, and also mentally it takes you to places you never go.
How bad does it smell?
Authentically rhino these days. After 100 I'm up to 118 marathons and ultras in the costume. Look, every time, because people ask me all the time, and I love it, they want to try on the costume, and I have to put that caveat in there. Look, you know, it's
hold your breath.
It's the best smell. Yeah, hold your breath. It's authentically Rhino, but it's all part of the experience. You know, if you want to jump in, you're gonna really experience it on every level.
When did it start? Because as a Brit, you know, we can maybe look at, say, the Red Squirrel, you know, something close to home. What was the spark for you? What was the moment when you decided, yeah, I'm going to kind of help these guys?
Well, look, I grew up. I mean, as long as I can remember, I've loved rhinos. I've just been so obsessed with them ever since I was a little boy. I mean, I was lucky enough to see them in the wild in Africa when I was only 5 years old. I fell instantly in love. All my memories, all my formative memories, they all seem to start with rhinos and that experience. And I grew up and I had rhino posters on my wall. I had cuddly rhinos. So in many ways, I always thought of them as my best friends. Yeah. And so as you get older and you suddenly realise that your best friend is in real danger, there's nothing you wouldn't do for a best friend, right? That's kind of how I've seen it as I discovered that they needed all the friends, they needed all the help they could get. I got more and more involved with Save the Rhino. I ran my first ever event as a rhino in 2009. I still remember to this day, I didn't know how I would be able to get through, you know, that 26 miles at the London Marathon in 2009, let alone be sitting here chatting with you today talking about now 118 marathons and ultras. But it's the realization that it's having a real impact. It is making a difference. And the thing that I find so special, that brings me so much joy in my life, yes, rhinos are my passion, but it's had all these wonderful consequences. So you mentioned, the red squirrel and so many things in, right here in the UK that we need to look after, so many precious animals and so much of the environment that we need to look after. But that is the far-reaching consequence of running for a conservation cause. It's rhinos first and foremost, but it has all these beautiful consequences, and you're getting everybody involved and everybody thinking about the environment. And then actually you can play that out on an even wider scale, because I have the most amazing conversations at pretty much every event I go to where people will say, look, this is my cause, but seeing you run in that costume today, I'm now thinking, I want to do this for cancer research, or I want to run for MND, or I want to, and you get to all help each other. So I think it's something beautiful. Yes, it's conservation, but then it's also just spreading love and goodwill and a message that, do you know what, when we all work together, there is nothing we can't achieve. And so instead of feeling helpless, it's so empowering. It's really profound. It's touched my soul, and that's why I think I keep going, because you're seeing that it's having such a wider impact, and it's a very, very special thing.
Yeah, what's the current situation with the rhino? I've done a little bit of research, and some of the stats, they are pretty scary for certain types of rhino. Some of them I think are on the up, but some are really struggling.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It's good to point out there is the really mixed feedback that I would be able to give on each species. So you're right. I mean, there's you've got the white rhino, which is the most prevalent at the moment. It's one of the more success stories. There's 16,000 white rhino at the moment, and that actually shows what can be achieved again, because during the 1980s they were literally down to the thousands, so and below. So it's come a long way from that, so it shows what can be achieved. But then you get down to the Javan and the Sumatran rhinos over there in Southeast Asia, and there's less than 100 of those combined, Javan and Sumatran. Last estimates, there's only 34 to 47 of those left in the wild, and that is so frightening.
Is that because of poaching,
A little
Chris?
bit different in Asia. It's more habitat loss. So okay. Typically in Africa with the white rhino and the black rhino, it's the poaching, and then you've got the greater one-horned rhino in India and Nepal, also historically suffered from poaching. But in Java and Sumatra, it's really the habitat loss, which is climate change, which is really driving that real threat right now. So these are all areas that Save the Rhinos projects will focus on, and the great thing is they are working on with the right people in the key areas. In every area there are rhinos. So looking for a future where hopefully we can create a world world where they don't only survive, but, get them thriving again.
Some of that work, though, that Save the Rhino do, like action on the ground where you say it maybe is a poaching problem, that's got to be super dangerous.
So last year, this time last year, and the event's running again as we speak, but I had the pleasure of going out and participating in the Four Rangers Ultra, which is Beyond the Ultimate event. It's out in Kenya. I got to go out there last year, and it changed my life, to be honest. I think in many ways, Save the Rhino thought that it was like a retirement. It was a swan song for me, or a rhino song for me, sort of going out there. But actually, it's made me more determined than ever, because I could see, again, the impact that it's having, getting to meet the Rangers. They've always been, my whole life, my heroes. They say don't meet your heroes, but absolutely it's not true. You should. And certainly in the case of the Rangers, who sacrifice everything. And I didn't know the extent of that sacrifice myself until last year, but I didn't know over 150 Rangers every year die, in the line of duty. So it's a devastating, in the last decade, that's over 1,000 Rangers have lost their lives, basically protecting the wildlife that we're so lucky to share this world with. And it's so often historically been because they've been under-resourced. They don't have the materials, they don't have the equipment. So a major part of the fundraising, so all the people who are so kind and generous, they're contributing towards the welfare of the Rangers by getting them that equipment, by getting them, uniform, boots, making sure that the equipment that they have is keeping them as safe as can be. And then things like, life insurance policies so that their families are protected. So many things that we take for granted. Those guys have, if you like, been sort of, asked to do such an essential job, such a vital job, but with one arm tied behind their back. So I got to see last year just how amazing those Rangers are, how dedicated they are, and how it would be completely, if we didn't have them, how much we would have already lost. So that was a major thing, and an event that is specifically to highlight, raise awareness and raise funds for the Rangers. It was, it was really, really special to be part of that. But also a lot of the projects will be community based. So what they're trying to do at Save the Rhino International is make sure that everybody has a vested interest in protecting wildlife, in loving and looking after, those rhinos. Again, it's having huge consequences within those communities. When I sort of think the heartbreaking situation historically, where you could, for example, you could have two friends growing up in a village, and one becomes a ranger and one becomes a poacher, and they could be fighting against each other. And it's easy to demonize the poacher. It really is. Of course, I'm going to do that. Somebody who's so passionate. There have been times in my life, and you see the most awful pictures, and there is anger there. But then you have to look at, sometimes these people are being offered more money that will change, their lives. Yeah. So it's the bigger problem that you need to be looking at. So by, as I say, working in the local communities, you're giving so much. By helping rhinos, you're helping a whole ecosystem, because they are an integral part of the ecosystem. They're umbrella species, so many other species depend on them. So you're helping an entire ecosystem, but you're also helping those amazing rangers. You're helping the communities that surround the reserves, the parks, the conservancies. So you're doing so much that has far-reaching consequences. And I always like to have these conversations so people don't realise how profound it is. They're always apologising. I think people do this in the running world anyway, because they'll always play down the amazing achievements. They go, I'm only running 10Ks today, I'm only doing a half, I'm only going so far. They play it down, and they do the same thing when they're putting £1 into your donation jar. They say, well, it's only £1, I'm sorry, I wish it was more. Listen, whatever you're doing, it is fantastic. It's amazing. I want people to know, because every single pound, every time, if they're worried about putting something in there and they don't put anything, we're not getting anywhere. Whereas just that action, it is having a consequence. It all adds up and it all plays out. And I just love people to get involved and have the conversation. And I want to be able to tell them, you are having a huge impact. So don't ever play it down. Don't ever say only, because it's massive, it's huge, and people are really, really special, and I want them to know that.
Did the Rangers meet your rhino suit? Did they see it? And what did they say on its authenticity? We'd go like this. Oh my God.
Well, a little bit of that, and they were very brave. I've just said how brave they are. But we actually went out. I was crying my eyes out inside the suit because I think it was about the third day I'd been in Kenya, and it was a few days before the actual Four Rangers was set to start. I had the huge honour of going out for a morning run with the Rangers. So about 30 Rangers all around me in the Rhino costume. They let me lead them out of camp and sort of just run
Oh my
straight.
God. This is a life moment.
Like I say, I was in tears because it just meant what it meant to me. You know, I'm surrounded by my heroes, like I say. I mean, it's really, if you're not careful, I'll start crying now because it was just, it meant.
It's fine. Gary loves crying on the
don't
podcast.
cry, Chris.
But, no, it meant the world to me. And they actually, we stopped maybe halfway through, and then, you know, quite a few of them were taking it in turns in putting on the Rhino suit, and that just meant the world to me as well. All these new, you know, for a Ranger to be in the Rhino suit, you know, it didn't get more special.
Were you like, guys, you don't realise how tough I am. You guys just jogging in there. I do this for hours.
They kind of made me look like an average Rhino, I've got to say, because these are tough men and women, and they were they seemed to take to it naturally, but they were all massive smiles, and they're absolutely awesome. And it was one of the best days of my life.
Where did the suit come from?
Yeah, so it's an amazing design actually, because it's kind of a metal frame that sits around you like a backpack. So you put it on, you put straps inside there, and you can sort of strap it around the body and over your shoulders, and then a big metal frame that comes over your head, and that's where you put the actual head of the Rhino. So if you like, you're almost in the Rhino's back, sort of looking over the head. So it's like a Rhino charging the costume. So it's incredible how it's been done.
Of course.
And I actually met, again, talking of heroes, I met the Rhino number one, if you like, an amazing guy called William Todd Jones, who was instrumental in the design of the suit, ran it for the first time in 1992. So that was the first time the Rhino was at the London Marathon. And actually it had been designed originally it was in a theatre production down in Chichester. So actually the Rhinos were being used as Rhino actors, if you like, and then they realised that it could be a powerful aid to the the fundraising and raising awareness. So donated them to the charity Save the Rhino. And like I say, William Todd Jones, he didn't just run in the Rhino suit, he ran in the Rhino suit but wearing a pair of brogues, because again somebody had said, well, if you wear brogues, we'll double the contribution that we make. So another hero, and I only met him last year. Beginning of last year. I loved it, and we've stayed in touch ever since, and he calls me Rhino 100 because I got to the 100 in the suit, and I call him Rhino number one because he will always be number one. Like my Rhino hero and mentor, really. But an amazing man, and an amazing story behind the costume, because Todd, for sure, as he's likes to be called, but he is still very much involved. Last year he designed the first ever Rhino wheelchair. So Rhino costume built around a wheelchair, so that we could have somebody from the Welsh rugby or wheelchair rugby team actually took part. My Rhino brother Martin, he was in the wheelchair at London in 2024, and another amazing man. So I love it because it's just anything's possible. So like I said to begin with, I think if you put on that Rhino costume, if ever you're feeling cynical about the world, put on a Rhino costume and like I said, you see the absolute best in everything. It brings out the big kids.
How much can you see out of the suit? Like, where's your vision? Because you presumably can't move your head.
You can move around all right in there, because like I say, it's sort of backpack. I say all right. I mean, it's like looking through a letterbox, basically. You got the top of it here, and then the actual Rhino head there. So it's a very limited. If you want to see your feet, for example, you have to lift the head right up and look down. So most of the time you're looking out over the head, so you can't see where you're treading. You're leaning forward the whole time, so it's your lower back that really, really hurts during a run, and it's your forearms that will kill you from holding the head that whole time. But like I said earlier, helping rhinos is worth the pain. It's you don't really notice.
How do you eat and drink?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. I'm like I say, I'm more rhino than human now. So out in Africa last year, I fitted a bladder. I raced to the Stones earlier this year in the Rhino series. It was the hottest day of the year, and it was so tough. But I ran the first 50Ks with another Rhino brother, Rhino Ed, and that was great company. But yeah, we needed bladders inside the Rhino, so there are things that you can fit depending on the distance that you want to do. If I was running a big city marathon, most of the time you just got so much love around you from obviously crowds, but also the fellow runners who are also always checking in, going, "You okay in there, Rhino?" and passing you in water. you can reach out with your human hand and grab a water if you need.
Do you ever get a runner though go, "I'm not going to get"? I did London Marathon once, and an ice cream went past me when I was struggling, and I was thinking, "Oh goodness me, I don't want an ice cream to beat me." Do you get in these like little mini races with people who, "I'm not letting a Rhino beat me"?
I think I've been responsible for so many PBs over the years. You can see people turning around, increasingly looking and saying, "Where's that Rhino? Where's that? The Rhino's coming." So you can see them just giving it their all, and I love that. And the nicest things that people have said at the end of races, where they've come over and said, "Thanks to you, that really pushed." And then also really other, probably arguably even more special, because people have contacted me after and just said, "I ran next to you the whole way." Because somewhere like London and every big city event, I feel guilty sometimes, because you feel like a Rhino rock star. You take all of that crowd love. All you can hear sometimes is, you can't hear a lot in that suit, but you can definitely hear the Rhino, 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 and save the Rhino. And for somebody who spent their whole life trying to save the Rhino, and you've got a whole city shouting "Save the Rhino," I can't tell you how good that feels. So people have written to me after and sort of said, "Look, I ran alongside you and fed off of that, and it helps me." And I love that the Rhino's out there helping people. Sure, you do get, like I say, the people trying harder. That's great. Or you get people swearing at you, but I've never had it in a bad way.
Okay.
No, not in malice.
Good-hearted banter where, here comes the Rhino. It's.
Do you think you've got a bit of it kind of sounds weird saying this because you've got 13 kilos on your back, but you said there about people shouting Rhino. I had Gary on my vest one year at London Marathon, and I thought I had an unfair advantage. But to have that amount of energy from the people supporting, I wonder if sometimes these races are maybe easier in the suit than not in the suit.
Exactly what I say. It is an unfair advantage sometimes. It really is. You cannot underestimate how much that picks up. And it comes back to my earlier point when I was saying how people play down what they are contributing, because every person who is calling out, every person who's cheering, who's clapping, they are pushing you to places that you did not know you could go. They are making that difference, which in turn means that you can raise more awareness, which means you can raise funds, which means they are, by doing those simple actions, then helping rhinos, rangers, communities. They're doing all of that just by the simple act of just showing love. And I just think, play that out, pay that forward in society as a whole. Let's all pat each other on the back more often. Let's all shout. Let's all just enjoy and share the glory of achievements, because it is a universal thing. I don't believe anybody who's achieved anything has ever done it solely on their own. It takes a group effort to do something really, really special. I truly believe that.
How many miles do you reckon you've run in the suit?
I was doing the maths. It's got to be 3,000, doesn't it? More.
Look, I mean, if you just went on marathons alone, but the amount of half marathons and 10Ks and other events that, I will have taken part in. And I try and wear the costume for training as often as possible.
Okay, that was my next question. Do you wear it are you just doing your local 40 minutes?
Yeah, because you never know who you're going to meet, and the opportunity to make someone smile, that's got to be taken, hasn't it? I mean,
or cry if you suddenly came around the corner in the wood and
yeah, definitely. Look, I've taken a few people by surprise over the years, but I guarantee to you, any sort of surprise or startled reaction is almost always really quickly followed by a huge smile, and it does seem to brighten people's day, which brightens my day. Like I say, it is the joy of my life that I get to be surrounded by that. So of course I'm gonna put it on for a training run. People are always generous, so you never know going to turn a corner, and it engages conversation. The most important thing. So somebody will go, "Why are you doing that?" You have the conversation, and they end up doing the most spontaneous acts of kindness. Just touch your heart, really do touch your soul. And why wouldn't you want to do that every opportunity? I'm so lucky. I cannot imagine my life without being Rhino Boy and the people and the places that it's brought me to. It's a lovely thing.
I've got to ask this. What's your fastest marathon in the suit?
Well, yeah, the fastest one was back in 2021, also at London. So it comes back to that group effort with all the cheering and everything. But I managed to get 4:06, which qualified for me for the Guinness World Record. So,
Yes.
So that was fastest marathon dressed as a mammal.
Oh, that's quite a broad mammal,
well, technically,
isn't it?
we're all mammals, aren't we? So,
yeah.
Over all these years, look, I don't ever want to have an ego because the rhino is all about sharing. Like I'm trying to say, it's making people realise. I love the fact that the rhino has become, or at least that rhino costume at events and things. People getting PBs and people running alongside me, and it's something we can all do together. So I don't really want to have an ego, but I do sometimes. And you do worry that there's a panda out there. There's down in the cellar, really
training
hard.
the local lane.
Bargy with the panda. I love it.
Yeah. No, well, look, we're all. I've got a really good friend who runs in a gorilla outfit, and
gorilla's a nightmare, Chris.
And we is there a story there?
No. Just being facetious.
We met at the 2022 London Marathon, and we were having a great, because as soon as I got the great thing about London, every year I get to stand at the Guinness marquee at the start line,
flexing, just going,
having a workout with the fellow fancy dressers. I was going to say, I mean, I think if ever you're nervous, you're so lucky if you stand at that tent. How can you be nervous when you're standing there, Rhino, chatting to in a wedding cake or a human submarine with about 8 people in? And
this is an interesting one. So when you're standing there, if you weren't going to be a rhino, would there be another costume that you'd be like, I'd have a crack in that one?
Yeah, it's always got to be animal related for me. I have run other event, I mean, I ran the Marathon de Medoc. I'd love to go back and run it with the rhino because I think it'd be awesome. But I ran that one as Tarzan, which is actually a great thing. Gone from one extreme to the other. I was just in a loincloth. I was going
to say, share that picture.
I was liberated. I'll tell you, my loincloth. I flew along.
I think I might get a bit judgy though if I was in my rhino suit and I saw Spider-Man. I'd be thinking, come on, you've got to try harder than that. Surely.
I think the best thing about events like London are the fancy dress.
Oh, for sure. We're all there. Once we've seen the Kenyans dominate, we are there. Do you remember the guy that did it in the space suit and it took him like a week?
Oh, yeah, diving suit, wasn't it?
It was a diving suit. Diving, yeah. It was incredible. But it's nowadays you get the guys running with the fridges. There's a few of them now.
Yeah.
Running with the fridges. I've joked with them before and said, have you got a drink for the end in there? And they literally have. They've been running, with some sandwiches and a couple of beers. And then this year at the Leeds Marathon, there was a guy with a washing machine. So there's always somebody taking it, to the next level. He was a super lovely guy, and like I was saying with my friend Will, the Jersey Gorilla. He, they're some of the nicest people that you could ever hope to meet, running for really heartfelt reasons for the causes that they're so passionate about. I always find we've got so much in common, and you can actually play that out. The running community as a whole, it's so special, and everybody's got their reasons for running, and that again is something that I find so wonderful. Is conversations that you end up having. It's such a great leveler. It doesn't matter from what walk of life you are. If you love running, and certainly running for a cause and a heartfelt reason, then I've learned so much from the people that I've been lucky enough to be surrounded by at weekends and at incredible events.
Positivity, I think, just rubs off on people. And like you say, someone will catch a spark from you, Chris. They might not go and say maybe worried about the rhino as such, but it might be some other kind of good cause they follow. Can I take you back to the 2025 London Marathon? You said you did the fastest marathon. Was the 2025 London, was that where you broke the Guinness record for the most marathons as a mammal, or rhino specifically? I'm not too sure.
It's funny with Guinness World Records. I love Guinness World Records so much because the amount I can only imagine the thousands and thousands of applications that they receive and the effort that it takes to looking into it. What they do for so many causes, again, you know, by being able to cast a spotlight on these things, I think it's so amazing, and I really want them to know that, and I try to tell them that every opportunity, every time I see them at that tent at the start of London Marathon. They invited me in for a Q&A with some other Guinness World Record holders back in 2024. It was amazing to go into their offices and meet them, and a lot of the background staff who, like I say, do so much of that hard work, sort of vetting everything. I'm so grateful to them, but I do joke with them because I have applied every single time for a specific rhino title. I never get the rhino title, so I get, you know, mammal, or I've had three-dimensional animal. I've had, and so this one, the one I got this year, 2025, so proud of it. But it's most marathons run in the same three-dimensional costume. So it's a
offense, Chris. That's not glamorous, is it? You like
no. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? It's harder to say it than achieve it. It was obviously a long from 2009 to today. It was 113 at London. It was. It was, again, a very, very emotional thing, because obviously there's been so much behind it. It's, you know, it is hard to keep sort of going year after year and every year. I mean, I promised my wife, look, this year I'll calm down a little bit.
I was just going to ask this. So I was going to go, well, what's the sort of family emotion behind all this?
I mean, look, my wife is so patient, understanding. She's been through a lot. She will be, alongside my dear old mum. My family have been, you know, the major thing. Family and friends who are like family are a major reason. My wife, she's gone through cancer a couple of times, bless her. I mean, touch wood, she's doing okay now, but she's been through so much that, you know, if ever I'm struggling on a marathon and I think of Kate and I think of everything she's been through, and I just think, yeah, you can't
suck it up.
No, exactly that. You can't complain. But, you know, because she's been through what she's been through is a major reason why we do what we do, because we made a list when she was having her chemo. She used to wear an ice cap on her head, and it was always really excruciating during the chemo. And I had an idea one day. I said, why don't we just make a list of all the things we're going to do when this is over? One of them is helping animals. That's one of the reasons we met, that we, you know, fell in love, is we both have this love of animals, of nature, rhinos in particular. And so, you know, she is so supportive with that and is really, you know, pushing. And I know also when I'm getting on her nerves, it's a good way of pushing me out the door, saying, you know, just go and run a rhinothon and give me some space for a little while.
Where does your rhino suit live at home? Is it on the porch? And she's like, if I trip over that suit one more time.
I mean, she probably wishes, Kate, sometimes, because this is going to a rhino horn of contention right now, because if I run an event, I can never just sort of leave the rhino anywhere other than the living room on the sofa, because I figure they've had a hard day, you know. And Kate will come in and the rhino's sprawled
and you've
out
got your arm, you're sharing a beer, you're like,
tea.
Yeah, totally. But she takes it, you know, Kate takes it all in her stride, and she, you know, I want the rhino to be all things to all people, so it does have names. For me, it's kind of, people ask me all the time what it's called, and it's either, if I want to go silly fast, for example, just be silly in general, it's Spike the Rhino. But if I want to channel real endurance, then it's Gertrude the Rhino. So I need it to be Gertrude the Rhino this year to get to 113, you know, marathons in the rhino costume.
She's gritty. Perhaps doesn't do things like the prettiest, but she'll get it done. She'll get it done.
Exactly that. And so Kate, bless her, she'll come back and you know, Gertrude will be on the sofa and she'll just say, I can't believe Gertrude's there. She joins in 100%. And I love her even more for it. She's absolutely amazing, my wife. I'm so lucky. She's at the beginning, the end, and heart of anything that's good in my life.
Yeah.
Has she been running in the suit?
She hasn't been running in the suit.
She's sensible.
She's the foil to my stupidity, definitely. She'll join. And we, you know, again, because of everything she's been through, she can't really run after having, you know, double mastectomy.
Yeah, for sure.
She'll walk all day. You know, we walked the Camino de Santiago together, and you know, we've done some amazing, had some amazing adventures over the years, and lots of animal-related adventures. So it's sadly, because of cancer and stuff, we haven't been able to have kids, but we want to leave a good and positive mark in this world in other ways, and hopefully this is part of that.
Unbelievable. You've written a book, Chris, called The Rhino's Hope. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, definitely. It's so nice of you to talk about it. It makes me so happy because I wrote that book. I wrote the story. You know, you never imagine that it'll end up published, and then it's published, and then you get to go into schools and talk about it, or you go into the school and they've already got the book and they've read it.
Oh, the dream.
It's only a little book. I call it my little book full of hope because it's Matumaini, it's a Swahili name which means hope. So it's the Rhino's Hope because it's Matumaini, the Rhino's Hope. And my hope is that it does inspire a love of rhinos in anybody who reads it, but particularly, you know, when children are reading it and they're falling in love with rhinos and with animals, you know, I can't tell you how good and how amazing that makes you feel and how much those school visits give to me. You know, everybody goes, oh, that's amazing you're doing the school visits. I'm so grateful they let me come along because I come out of there, I swear to you, if I could run a marathon or an ultra straight away, I think I'd win it just on the pure adrenaline and exuberation of all the children. They're so inspiring in the way they have all these ideas. So when you turn up there and you're talking, they're putting their hands up and they're so engaged. You know, they're saying, well, what about this? What about that? And they're coming out with ideas that I think, actually, do you know what? There's probably leading conservationists that should be in here right now listening to this because it shows how much they care. I think that's the best message that I always get from these things is it's like, wow, the kids care so much and they want to make a difference and they don't really see the barriers that we see. So,
oh, yeah, that's the biggest thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Why do I wish we didn't lose that because anything is possible in their world. And I think let's follow their example. They're leading the way. Anything is possible. Look, I am knackered when I leave those. I am probably I'm as exhilarated as I am exhausted, and I have so much respect for all of my teacher friends because that is one hell of a job as well. Wow, you know, I mean, I'll do that for half a day or a day going in because normally we combine it with Rhino dashes. So I'll stand up at assembly and give a talk and talk a little bit about my book, but talk about why rhino, introduce basically the 5 species of rhino, why they're endangered, and then we'll talk about sort of my adventures over the years. And then, like I say, then we have the Q&A and then we'll go outside into, the playground or the playing fields and we have rhino.
They want to race you. They want to race you in the suit.
Racing, and you want to give your best.
That's all I want to do too.
Anytime. Let's do it.
Did you do the pictures for the book, Chris?
Pictures are awesome. That was through the publisher, Pegasus.
They're lovely pictures, aren't they?
I'm so glad you've seen them. They are awesome. I basically said what I wanted the illustrations to be. So I said, look, I think we need the illustrations here, here, and here, and I think it should be, of this sequence or that sequence. And they literally, it's like they took my story, they got into my mind and my heart, and were able to put it down. I could not have imagined it better than what they've created. So I love that. And what I've tried to do with the book, obviously, where it tells the story, it takes everybody on the journey with little Matu and her best friend, who's the oxpecker bird, who in real life, rhinos and oxpecker birds, best friends. She's a great example again when I say be more rhino. Rhinos are never bullies. Even their best friends are a tiny little oxpecker bird. It takes everybody on the journey, but then there's lots of, at the end, educational facts. So some fun facts all about rhinos and then, like I say, a little bit about why rhinos are endangered and what we can do to help. And like I say, I feel like everybody who's read the book, they say that I get sent the nicest pictures, like I say, people holding up the book, sort of little hands holding it, and it's such a lovely thing. It really is.
What's next on the rhino running bucket list? Is there any kind of wild goals or challenges that we should know about?
The thing that I get a little bit stressed out about is keeping the momentum going. So I never want to let rhinos down. I've told you how much they're my best friends, and I know how desperate times are and that I don't want to lose the momentum. So this is why I'm so grateful to you guys for chatting to me about all of this today. I worry about what we do next, just to keep people interested, and I've been so lucky. Again, through the running community, the amount of amazing events that people have even, put on to try and help my fundraising. So there have been Rhino runs with amazing race directors, Phoenix Running, Saturn Running have both had Rhino runs. There's with Circuit Running, there's a Rhino run coming up, and Canary Trail events have been amazing. I had a special Rhino run around my 50th birthday this year, and even gave me a lovely Rhino wooden plaque for that for my birthday present. So many people getting behind it. There's going to be way more things coming up where we can have sort of fundraising Rhino events, and always great fun. But also I'm going to head back out to Africa in January. So this is the first that I'm sort of putting out there, but I'm going to try and climb Kilimanjaro in the Rhino suit.
Goodness,
wow.
Wowzers.
That's coming up in 2026, and then some more international. So the Rhino will get to go to Rome next year. The Rhino in Rome. The Rhino went out to Paris earlier this year.
Too much.
Be the only Rhino in Rome, unless I can conscript anyone else in the meantime. Look, one of the things I love about London, it's like this year there were 12 Rhinos that were lined up. So
wow.
So many events. I'm the lone Rhino. But London, I get to have Rhino brothers and sisters, and my Rhino family around me, which is always a really, really special thing for me, because it's like a metaphor for what we're trying to do in the wild. More rhinos and more rhinos at events. So this is why I love those Rhino runs, because I'll normally save the Rhino are good enough to let me sort of grab 2, 3, 4 costumes, and then people can try the costume, because everybody says they'd love to try it, maybe a little bit intimidated. So a lot of those events where they're maybe looped events or timed events, they can maybe run a lap, they could do 3 miles and just sort of see how they feel. And a couple of people have sort of running it for 3 miles and they say, I want to do a half now. And so I love that. I love seeing that enthusiasm again, that people want to give it a go.
How many costumes are there then?
In Rhino HQ in London, there's quite a few, old and new, all through the years from 1992.
Is yours your original one you had, or have you upgraded Gertrude?
I don't know if you remember that scene from Only Fools and Horses, in Trigger's Broom, where somebody was asking about, he's boasting, saying, I've had this broom for 30 years, and then he said, I've replaced the handle 15 times and the head, excellent. So my Rhino costume's pretty much the same, where it's just needed to be repaired that many times that it's like a bionic Gertrude now.
It's just like our bodies. But
exactly.
I've got all sorts of bits that aren't real.
Listen, people say, there's no inhibitions, I think, when a Rhino turns up, and people will say to me, cool, your Rhino's looking knackered. And I always think it's getting a bit personal. Or they'll say, your Rhino won't fit through there. And I always say, you're fat shaming my Rhino there, stop it.
Yeah, it's a bit mean.
But I always also joke, the costume now is looking as old and knackered as the guy inside it.
No, won't hear a word of that.
How can people get involved? Where can we direct people?
Well, bless you. Look, I can easily, if people wanted to donate, they can go to Just Giving and just look up Rhino Boy Chris and on Just Giving, and they'll find me there. It's always so hard when you're trying to tell someone the great big long sort of link to fundraise, but that's the easiest way, and it's kind of cool now. I don't even know. How'd you get a Wikipedia page? Somebody Googled Rhino Boy Chris, and there's a whole Wikipedia page on there now.
You've made it.
I don't know how I managed that, but yeah. So yeah, got that. So yeah, there's lots of different ways, and if they do sort of search Rhino Boy Chris, or like I say, if they look up Rhino Run, there'll be lots of options if they want to come along and run with us. And they can find me on Instagram, for example, Rhino Boy Chris. And anybody who wants to, ever send me a message and sort of get more involved, I will happily point them in the right direction and introduce them to Save the Rhino. Anybody who wants to, to be involved, to spread some Rhino to love and cheer, and in any way, like I say, no such thing as only. So in whatever capacity that is, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be intimidated. You're not going to suddenly be told you got to run 26 miles in this costume. Off you go. Yeah. We can get you a nice Save the Rhino t-shirt, and you could run that way. You could be a supporter. You can participate in any number of fundraising activities. There are so many different things that we could suggest depending on the extent to which over the years, companies that have been kind enough to, Flancy designed some Rhino shorts, and they donate 20% of the the profits that they make
Oh, wow.
from the rhino range. So not just shorts, they've got rhino skirts and skirts and buffs and all kinds of things. So, people have got involved in that way, and that just blows my mind as well, because you start off just a little rhino, and next thing you know, just there's a whole rhino community looking to love you and make you feel loved. And I can never thank this running world enough for, and people like yourselves for, just helping do that. It's amazing.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. This running community, honestly, it's filled our cup many a times. When you just think you're feeling rock bottom, then you just get a little bit of love that you didn't expect. Yeah, it's wonderful.
100%.
Do you want to do the workout of the week? I'm not too sure where this one's going to go, Eddie.
Where's this one going to go? Right. So every week we ask our guests, what's your favourite workout to do in training? And then people can try it out. As a rhino guy, do you do workouts? Are you training for these marathons like your classic marathon training, or what does it look like?
Yeah, well, anything with me is, look, I swim a lot, believe it or not, when I'm not sort of in my rhino suit. I'm still yet to kind of incorporate the suit for water. I need to fit some sort of snorkel through the horn and
get the lifeguard on duty to be full aware that this is what you're doing, please.
Yeah. I missed an opportunity because I swam Lake Windermere last year as well. Back in August, it's like 11 miles. It took me 8.5 hours. It was.
Oh my goodness me!
It was sort of awful and so wonderful, but I missed the trick. The kayaker afterwards said to me, he's a lovely guy, Marley, that I met. He volunteered to sort of swim. I couldn't have done it without him. He had the idea afterwards, though. He said, I should have got the rhino fit to the front of the kayak alongside me, and that would have been really cool. So it's almost made me want to go back and do it again.
Next time. Do Coniston, shake it up.
Exactly, English Channel with him or something. I don't know. But, yeah, look, there's my workouts are they usually are either me swimming. So I just recommend swimming. Cold water swimming is just the best thing. It's good for your immune system. It's good for it definitely good for your mental space, just like running is. Otherwise, like I said, all of my training is in the costume. Yeah, I would say.
So in kilograms on your back.
You could try and replicate, but I don't think there is anything. People ask about that, wearing weight. I just don't think you can replicate. It's like running in a crisp packet, the heavy crisp packet with all the rust in. And it's a tricky one.
With 2 bricks in your hand, because I imagine your forearms are screaming after the marathon. My goodness.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it is. And also because you want to interact, especially the big city marathons. The great thing about that costume is you can put your arms inside the rhino's hooves, and you can then high hoof all the children. And so you've got to hold the head with one hoof and then kind of high. It's a tricky, but it gives you such a buzz. And again, it provokes even more smiles, which is what it should be all about. I feel guilty for the marathons where I've tried to run too fast, because you're sure that you will have missed people. I much prefer like this year, where I tried to dance with every band and high hoof every smile. Child, they're way more fun than trying to rush through and get a fast Guinness World Record. I was lucky this year that I could take my time and still get the most marathons. Yeah.
Cool. Quick 5 time. I know about this program. I've never actually watched it, but you're taking part in The Voice. You're on stage, full rhino suit. What song are you belting out?
I'm honey, honey.
You didn't even need to take a breath.
Didn't miss a beat. I love it. You mentioned about fun rhino facts in the book. Yeah, give us one fun rhino fact.
Rhinos communicate by doing a poo. They will leave their little markers for other rhinos to know where they've been, and it will indicate food sources and a great bit of grass or some interesting leaves around this corner.
What a gift this podcast is to our listeners.
Just like trail runners.
Yeah, there you go. There is so much in
Don't
common.
drink that water. Don't drink that. Don't eat that. apart from rhinos, what posters, if any, were on your bedroom wall as a kid?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of room for anything else, I'm afraid. It was rhinos all the way.
Not a football fan? Anything like that? Athletics?
I love all sport, and it's another wonderful thing, I think. Just creating environments where people aren't intimidated to be part of. So I think a lot of team sports, people have maybe held back because there's been sort of different pressures, and I love like I say, when I go into these schools, or I love just the power of, again, coming back, I keep saying about the running community, because people are realising that, you know, they will be encouraged rather than kind of demotivated. I think people are scared to initially go along to things because they're, well, I'm not very fast, and they're playing themselves down, or I won't be able to go very far. And then you realise that there's so many other people in exactly the same boat as you. They're the people you want to inspire. So I know you were asking about sort of posters and football that I liked and things like that, but I think it's more maybe just characters through history have maybe sort of defied or been ahead of their time a little bit. So, you know, people who have spread messages of love rather than anything else through their endeavours. I think they're the best sort of role models. And I
wonder how many kids you've inspired, because you go into a school and I think a lot of children, especially where I live, like football seems to be the only sporty outlet. I wonder how many kids have laced up their shoes and gone for a run after you've been to have a chat with them.
I hope. I'd love to think. You know, it always seems to be the affair every school visit after a Rhino dash. Again, the children will say to me, when I grow up, I want to be a Rhino boy or a Rhino girl. Yeah. And, you know, I'm on 118 marathons in the suit now. I'd really rather not get to 200 if you know we can conscript the new Rhino boy and girl. but best of all, yeah, exactly. Well, best of all, nobody needs to, because we've been successful rhinos are safe, thriving, and we don't, and then we can all concentrate on other things that, you know, there's so much for us to do, like I say, but by working together, we can do it. We can make the world a better place if we just think in terms of sharing rather than coveting and hoarding and holding on to, and just sharing. And I think, again, children are leading the way in that.
This is going to be a tough one to answer. Was it 118? Sorry, Chris, you finished. Out of the 118 races, is there a standout one? Not necessarily a favourite, but just one that kind of springs to mind.
There have been ones that have been so hard. So I ran one in January on the South Downs, and it was in the middle of, I forget the name, I think it was Storm Irwin, but it was brutal. I know that word is used all the time, but it's the one time in the Rhino costume where I literally couldn't put one hoof in front of the other because the wind was blowing so hard against me. And it was so muddy underfoot. So I'm pretty good normally, because I've got like four hoof drive. I'm normally pretty good on the feet, and people ask if I fall over, and I rarely do. But at that event with big feet, I wish I did have big feet on that day, because I seem to have just ballerina feet, and just I couldn't stay put. So I was struggling to move forward. I was falling over. I think it was my slowest ever marathon. I think it took me about 7.5 hours, and I felt hypothermic, because, again, you get so hot in the costumes, but so long as you're moving. So you could run in January and you're only wearing a T-shirt inside the costume because you'll still heat up once you're moving. But because I wasn't moving, all of that the wind, the gale was just blowing inside the suit, and I felt hypothermic. So it's one where I did question I'd finish, but now I finished. I'm super proud of that. And then the flip side, this year at Race for the Stones, it felt like Kenya again. It was so hot. So what I'd have given halfway through Race for the Stones for a bit of a gale force wind to cool me down. So, one is chained to the other, you know. Be careful what you wish for.
I'm just curious, because a lot of these trail races, you have to have a kit list. I'm kind of thinking, where does your waterproof jacket, where does your spare nutrition, your base layer, your bivy bag, where's all that going when you've got the Rhino suit on?
Yeah, look, there are ways to stow. Like I say, you can fix the hooves, so you can actually drop lots of things inside the arms if you actually make sure you've fastened up the end. So if you can carry stuff there and around your waist, and a bit more sort of on your upper back. There are ways to carry stuff if you need to, but then again, you got extra weight then. Yeah.
Well, it's Instagram story music time, Chris. Every week when we share the podcast up on Instagram, we need to pop a song to that Instagram story, an Instagram post, but you get the choice. What's it going to be?
Well, we got to go back to what I was just singing there, haven't we? We got to have a bit of honey. If it makes people smile, then yeah.
Oh, Chris, I had no idea on a rather rainy and dark Thursday morning here in Scotland that this was going to be such a joy when we logged onto the Zoom call. you are not just a ray of sunshine and a beacon of hope, but wow,
Radiator.
I'm just sitting listening, not just to your actions, but to your words as well of everything that you do. And it's not just about the rhinos. In fact, is it even about the rhinos, what you're doing? You are inspiring many people to run, to move, people that are in a much lesser position to ourselves to live and to work and families. And you're absolutely inspiration. What an amazing person you are. And I won't forget some of your words. And I know lots of people will be running feeling, wow, we'd all like a bit of Chris recording on our phones in the morning when we're feeling a bit, can I be bothered?
Yeah. Sometimes we have these episodes where they're very race specific, and then we have like evergreen content. So yeah, if anybody's feeling a bit down, I think they'll go back to this episode just for a pick me up. It's been wonderful, Chris. Really appreciate the hour that we spent together.
Amazing.
That means so much. I really appreciate your kind words. But straight back at you both, because I think you need to know that as well. Is that obviously the amount of people, by doing what you're doing here, you're helping so many people, and you are brightening their mornings, their days, and you're giving them, you're facilitating them to do something that they're trying something, they're experiencing something, they're listening, they're getting inspiration from your words. So I think massive honour to spend a bit of time with you as well this morning. So thank you.
And hopefully one day, I'm never going to forget Gertrude. She's going to come with me. It's definitely my alter ego is Gertrude. I'm sort of thinking a big wart on my nose at the same time. But hopefully our paths will cross one day, and I can carry your suit for you a little bit, and you can have a drink, swig of something. And I'll never, ever look at those rhinos in the same way on the marathon coverage, or if I ever get passed by one again.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Keep in touch.
Yeah, no, thank you, will do. And yeah, all of us rhinos, we love you guys a bit. So thank you, because you've been great friends to rhinos by doing this, and that's exactly what rhinos need. So thank you for that, and thank you for spreading all that love and happiness.
Anytime, Chris.
Anytime.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.